There are games that pass quietly into the history books, and then there are games that leave scars on a city's soul. What we saw in Cleveland wasn't just a loss, it was a collapse, the kind of gut-wrenching moment that makes you question everything you thought you knew about your team. I can still feel the energy shift in the stadium, the roar of fans desperate for a playoff push, the pounding of feet on aluminum stands, the chants echoing like war drums. But then came that awful, suffocating silence. You could almost hear hearts breaking in unison. This wasn't just about football, it was about pride, about a city that's carried hope on its shoulders for decades, only to watch it tumble to the turf yet again. From the very first drive, you could sense the unease creeping in. Joe Flacco jogged out, and for a fleeting moment, you wanted to believe the veteran had one more classic performance hidden somewhere inside him. But the first snap felt off, pressure closing in faster than it should, his footwork just a beat too slow, his reads hesitant. By the second drive, sacks were piling up like a cruel highlight reel. Incompletions killed momentum before it even started. And the turnovers. My God, the turnovers. Each one felt like a dagger to the gut, bleeding away, not just points but confidence, belief, and maybe even the season itself. I'm not exaggerating when I say this wasn't merely a bad game. Flacco's passes were nowhere near his targets. They weren't just misfires, they were misadventures. Receivers stretched, dove, and lunged in vain, and every miss fed the growing tension in the stands. The pressure on him mounted with every possession, like a storm cloud gathering weight until it's ready to split the sky wide open. What could have been a gritty, playoff-level battle turned into a lopsided embarrassment that no one in Cleveland will forget anytime soon. Then it happened, the moment that will replay in the nightmares of every Browns fan. Flacco rolled out of the pocket, buying time, eyes downfield, and for a flicker of a second, you thought this is it. This is where the veteran steadies the ship. But instead of brilliance, we got heartbreak. He let the ball fly, off balance and on the run, and it floated, not toward his receiver, but directly into the waiting arms of the defense. No tip, no fluke bounce, just a gift-wrapped interception. The stadium's roar died instantly, replaced by a stunned silence so complete you could hear the collective gasp of disbelief. That throw didn't just shift momentum, it detonated it, handing the game and maybe the Browns' postseason hopes to the opposition on a silver platter. A 50% completion rate tells part of the story, but the real tragedy was opportunity squandered. Time and again, chances appeared to claw back into the fight, and time and again, Flacco threw them away, literally. It wasn't grit or bad luck that doomed Cleveland, it was execution or the lack of it. This wasn't just a rough day at the office. This was humiliation on a national stage. The kind of performance that drains a locker room and leaves a franchise staring hard at the mirror. And now the Browns face a crossroads. The era of Joe Flacco in Cleveland is over, whether the coaching staff admits it or not. You can't keep rolling with a quarterback who's gifting possessions to the enemy when playoff hopes are on life support. You can't let nostalgia for what he once was destroy what's still possible for this team. It's time to look forward, to split the reps, to embrace the change. Enter Dillon Gabriel. When Flacco's struggles became unbearable, Gabriel took the field, and with his very first pass, a laser into the end zone for a touchdown, he jolted this team back to life. The offense suddenly had rhythm. The throws were crisp, decisive, and full of purpose. In that moment, the Browns sideline didn't just look relieved, they looked reborn. You could feel it, a pulse returning to a body that had been lifeless all afternoon. And lurking just behind the curtain is Shedeur Sanders. Bill Musgrave has been working him relentlessly, making sure every read, every progression, every mechanical detail is refined for when his number is called. They aren't rushing him, but make no mistake, they are preparing him for war. Musgrave himself said quarterback rooms across the league are about creativity and readiness. Young players have to develop their craft quietly, but when the moment comes, they must be ready to seize it. Shedeur isn't just another backup, he's the future they're building toward, and they're leaving nothing to chance. Team owner Jimmy Haslam knows the stakes. Colin Cowherd and the media are already circling, pointing out the inevitable. If the losses keep stacking up, the pressure on Kevin Stefanski and his staff will become unbearable. The dam will break, and when it does, the call for Shedeur Sanders will be deafening. The fans don't just want a spark, they want a savior. They want energy, swagger, and the promise of something new. And here's the thing, if Shedeur comes in and even flashes brilliance, even in one drive that makes the stadium erupt, that will be all it takes. The narrative will flip overnight. Headlines will scream his name. Talk shows will debate whether he should permanently take over. The crowd will demand it. And the Browns? They'll have no choice but to hand him the reins. This isn't simply about benching Joe Flacco. This is about saving a season, salvaging pride, and refusing to let another chapter of Cleveland heartbreak be written without a fight. Dillon Gabriel has shown the spark. Shedeur Sanders is waiting in the wings. The future isn't some distant horizon anymore, it's knocking on the door. And for the Cleveland Browns, it's time to answer. I've been following the Cleveland Browns for a long time, long enough to recognize when a single game feels bigger than the final score. And after what we just watched, I can tell you without a shred of doubt, this was one of those games. You could feel it in the tension of the crowd, in the way every snap carried a kind of electricity, as if everyone in the stadium knew something important was on the line. It wasn't just about starting the season 1-0 or proving the doubters wrong. It was about identity, about whether this team has the guts to seize a moment or let slip through their fingers. And that's why I can't stop thinking about two names, Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. These aren't just backups waiting for a chance to play. They're the future that's been quietly building behind the scenes, the flicker of light in a franchise that has too often stumbled in the dark. Gabriel and Sanders represent possibility, energy, and a chance to rewrite the story before it hardens into another chapter of disappointment. But here's the thing, they can't do that from the sidelines. Because let's be honest with ourselves, Browns fans, Joe Flacco's time under center has been painful to watch. This isn't about one or two bad throws. This is a pattern now. A pattern of fumbles, turnovers, and missed opportunities that have cost this team dearly. We saw it in the opener. The Browns were clawing for a win that would have been a huge boost to their confidence, a victory that could have set the tone for everything that comes next. Instead, two brutal interceptions slammed the door. I felt the air leave the stadium. I felt that sinking, familiar ache in my chest that every Cleveland fan knows too well. The feeling that the game was slipping away, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. I can still see the first interception in my mind. Flacco drops back, scans the field, and lets it fly, a ball we've all seen him throw before. But this one's just a little too high, a little too far. It sails over its mark, almost in slow motion, and lands perfectly in the defender's arms. You could almost hear the collective groan echoing across the dog pound. And then the second pick, just as costly, just as deflating, confirmed what we all feared. This wasn't bad luck. It was bad football. A blocked play here, a tipped ball there, and suddenly the Browns' fight, their grit, their determination, it all unraveled. Stefanski's post-game words, "You can't be -2 against a good football team," weren't just coach speak. They were an admission that the Browns didn't just get beat, they beat themselves. Now Cleveland is staring down a decision that could define the entire season. Do you keep rolling with a veteran whose best days are clearly behind him, hoping experience can outweigh decline? Or do you hand the reins to someone new, someone who can inject life, energy, and a little bit of fearlessness into this offense? Dillon Gabriel's brief appearance wasn't just filler, it was a glimpse of something different. His snap decisions, his confidence in those few plays, hinted at a version of the Browns' offense we haven't seen yet. And Shedeur Sanders? His presence is electric, even from the sideline. You can see it in his body language, the way he carries himself. This isn't a rookie shrinking from spotlight. This is a young quarterback waiting to grab his moment with both hands. Bill Musgrave's reassurance that they're preparing Shedeur Sanders for his opportunity wasn't just an offhand comment. It was a quiet promise. You can almost imagine the conversations happening behind closed doors, coaches weighing the risk of a change against the danger of staying stagnant. You can sense the locker room glances, the players wondering how many more chances Flacco will get. And you can feel the fan base restless, hungry for a spark, desperate for something new. But this isn't just about one quarterback. It never is. Football is too complex, too unforgiving for that. The Browns' fate will be decided by discipline, preparation, and the ability to execute in the little moments, the blocking assignments, the route timing, the ball security. Stefanski admitted the mistakes, but acknowledgement alone won't win games. This team has to clean up the details. Turnovers aren't just statistics, they're confidence killers. They're the invisible weight that drags down morale, that makes every snap feel heavier than it should. That's why I believe the Browns need to make the hard choice now, not later. Embrace the change. Give Dillon Gabriel more than a cameo. Let Shedeur Sanders step into the moment you've been grooming him for. Build the offense around their strengths. tighten the fundamentals and remind this team and this fan base that Cleveland isn't content to settle for missed opportunities. Because the truth is, the roster has the talent. The defense can hold its own. The pieces are there. What's missing is belief that the Browns can stop tripping over their own mistakes and start dictating games instead of reacting to them. So here's my challenge to Browns Nation. How much longer do you stay on this ride with Flacco before you admit the road has run out? Do you see Dillon Gabriel as the bridge to something better, or do you want Shedeur Sanders to take the wheel now and bring the energy this team so badly needs? And what about Stefanski and his staff? Can they instill the discipline to prevent these crushing turnovers? Or will we be back here in a few weeks, shaking our heads at another what could have been? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this decision isn't just about Sunday. It's about the kind of future Cleveland wants to build. And trust me, how the Browns handle this moment will echo far beyond this season.